live. I love our live shows, Boy Green. Good to see you in the flesh, my friend. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. Catch us on all our portals, but our primary is YouTube, youtube.com/at MC Show Digital. And we'd love for you to pop the old subscribe and join our little club. All right, Boy Green, good morning to you. It is Football Wednesday. We are in the midst of football season and talking a lot of football these days. And on Wednesdays, we bring them in to kick off our show. Today's broadcast, by the way, brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria, where it is always love at first slice. Let's bring them in, talk some football from PFF. That's Pro Football Focus. Our good buddy, Mr. and Mrs. and only Dalton Wasserman. No, I'm only kidding with the missus. How you doing, Dalton? What's up, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. It's certainly been an eventful week, an awfully loud week last week, and then a quiet weekend with my Twitter getting hacked, but we got that back. So, all's relatively back to normal here finally on a Wednesday. We're good.
Yeah. That's the old Twitter hack. Boy Green got Twitter hacked a while ago. Oh,
yeah, I did.
That was
Although
ugly.
I wasn't sure if Dalton was hacked because I was seeing posts. It said how well he was doing in crypto and that he was selling some cars and said just click this link and I can hop in. I'm like, oh, I can't.
It was so convincing, wasn't it? Just so convincing.
Yeah. I couldn't tell that you were hacked at all. It seemed like a classic Dalton Wasserman Pro Football Focus tweet. Could have been.
What is the thrill of that? Hacking out a Twitter for a brief period of time and sending out some nonsense. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know what these people get a charge out of. What's the charge out of that? I don't know.
I don't know, man. Some people just love the power of it, man. Some weird power trip thing or something. I don't know. I just like to feel in control of as much stuff as much as they can. So I guess for some people that's fun. I don't know.
Well, I know someone else who loves being in control. That's Woody Johnson, the New York Jets owner. And boy, at the league meetings in New York City, initially Woody was approached by media and he said, no, I have nothing to say. And they went, all right.
Good idea. Stick to the no, I have nothing to say thing. But go ahead.
And then he said, well, actually, I'll take questions for 10 minutes. Let's shoot the breeze. And, two things can be true. A lot of what Woody Johnson said was factual. I mean, Justin Fields has struggled to throw football forward, and the Jets are, not winning games. And that's certainly, it's not because Justin Fields has been playing well. It's not like they've been losing in spite of him. They've been losing with him, and that's been terrible. But also the owner coming out and saying, yikes, that quarterback rating, or yikes, we can't throw a football forward. It seemed like he threw him under the bus and drove over his limp carcass, backed over it, drove over it, backed over it again. What'd you make of Woody Johnson going scorched earth on poor Justin Fields, who the last time I checked is still on the roster?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's unusual, and you would prefer, a team to be unified from top to bottom in the organization. And look, it's never just one guy. Not that Justin hasn't struggled, because he's certainly struggled mightily. But this whole Jets team, right? There's not enough receiving depth. The offensive line is very young, and at times good, and other times bad. The defense has struggled at times. So it is never just on one guy. And for somebody in that position to come out and throw one guy under, it's unusual to me, because you see these organizations, even in losing times, they want to be more aligned than that, right? Especially with what they're putting out. So, no, I mean, it's not that a lot of what he said was wrong. It's just that you don't usually see somebody at that high a level be that open about it.
Speaking of classy individuals, stay classy, Sean Payton, is apparently not Sean Payton's motto, because I don't get it, Dalton. Sean Payton is an arrogant man, and I don't mind saying it. And frankly, I'm in the mood to trash Sean Payton because, look, Russell Wilson has had his struggles with the Giants, but he has been the dutiful son. He has showed up to work ready to go every day. All right, the talent may be waning, okay? The feet are not what they once were, but the guy is, for the most part, and everyone in the Giants organization has said it since the day he's arrived, he's been a stand-up guy. So for Sean Payton to take a swing after a devastating loss by the Giants in a game that we can talk about, okay, to me is just classless. And I'm glad that Russell Wilson, who usually carries himself as a very classy individual, did fire back on Twitter and did throw out some interesting things. Boy Green, if you can get the quote, I would love for, you could quote tweet that Twitter entry by Russell Wilson. But essentially what Sean Payton said, for those of you that haven't caught it yet, is, we were kind of hoping that the Giants were still, that Russell was still the quarterback. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, when we faced them, rather than having to face Jackson Dart, so he took a, he
actually
Dart while swiping Wilson's, sweeping the legs, so to speak.
Let's not, try to quote Sean Payton. Let's hear from Sean Payton himself.
Oh, we can hear it. Oh, good.
Oh yeah, here's Sean Payton.
I have a ton of respect for that organization. I spent 4 of my early years there, coordinating Super Bowl, first game in this stadium before 9/11. Close with the mayor, Tisch family, and they found a little spark with that quarterback. I was talking to John Mayer not too long ago, and I said we were hoping that change would have happened long after our game.
Mm-hmm. That change would have happened long after our game. And what he's intimating there, I mean, one side you can look at us, he's complimenting Jackson Dart. On the other side, he's clearly taken a swipe at Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's response, you see it here on the screen, Dalton: classless, but not surprised. Didn't realize you're still bounty hunting 15 years later through the media. Hashtag let's ride, and a couple of cool emojis. Go ahead. I love the fire back by Wilson, by the way. I'm a bigger fan this morning of Russell Wilson than I was yesterday. Dalton, your thoughts?
I mean, obviously you can't blame him for standing up for himself, right? And on the outside, it's a relatively entertaining war of words, but I think it kind of reveals to me a couple of years ago when Wilson was in Denver, just the clash of personalities that was going on from day one when Sean Payton walked in there, right? It just never seemed like, even though that middle of that season, they did have a 5-game winning streak and they did look more competent as a team, but it was just never going to work, right? Well, Wilson wasn't Payton's guy. He was brought in the year before. It didn't work the year before. The offense didn't really work with Wilson and Payton there together, and he was really only there still because of the contract. If not for the big contract, Payton would have probably gotten rid of him sooner. He just wanted to start over. So obviously, you don't like to see the bad feelings fester like that and just kind of stay. You're talking 2 years later now, but I think it really just shows you that 1 year they were together in Denver, it did not go very well behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I do think this is an ego thing. But, look, Russell Wilson, Denver took, as far as I know, I think the record still stands. It'll eventually be broken, I'm sure, because we're paying players more and more money. But Denver has, I think, the all-time record for dead cap hit with Russell Wilson. And it was, I don't remember the number anymore, but I remember when it came out, I was like, whoa, baby, this is going to hurt for a couple of years. This is going to make, roster maneuverability limited for a couple of years. They're probably just about out of it now.
85 million. 85 million.
85. Holy crow. 85 million to go play somewhere else. Thank you very much. Sounds good to me. If I'm Russell Wilson, I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right, we'll get off it, but that just ticks me off. I don't understand why Sean Payton even had to go there. You can compliment Jackson Dart without slapping the other guy. And I just thought that was an unnecessary slap by an arrogant guy who does, by the way, have some, dare I say, mileage on him, some questionable things that have gone down in his career. So I don't know, man. It's the old, don't throw rocks. Don't throw rocks at glass houses or whatever.
From a glass house.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay. We can move on. Let's talk trade deadline. Boy Green, I know you've got a bunch of names out there. There's been a lot written in recent days. I'm sure the folks at PFF are working on this kind of stuff too, Dalton, regarding things that could happen now that we're approaching the trade deadline, because we're getting to that point now. Buyer, seller, buyer. And there are some teams out there on both sides of this. Go ahead, BG.
Yeah, so Tuesday, November 4th at 4 o'clock is the NFL trade deadline. So we're about 10-ish days away, a week and a half away from getting there. And ESPN, there was the combination of Matt Bowen, who's a great film guy, and then we have Jeremy Fowler, the NFL insider. They ranked the top 25 players that could be traded ahead of the deadline, and they put all kinds of interesting factoids, buzz, percentage they could be moved. And I just want to throw some of these names out there to see if you think they could be moved, maybe a fit that you think would make sense. And the number one player on the list is Trey Hendrickson. But the problem is the Cincinnati Bengals are in the mix now. So I'm just not sure. And you guys are over there, for those who don't know, PFF headquarters in the beautiful state of Ohio, baby. With Trey Hendrickson, would they even move him? Because, don't they have that hope alive that Joe Burrow is going to come back and save the day if the team can remain relevant? And Trey Hendrickson, I would assume, would help them in that regard.
It feels far more likely that he stays, right? Because you're looking at a team that just got a huge win last Thursday against Pittsburgh to kind of get the momentum back, and they're playing the Jets this week, and they're favored obviously over the Jets, who don't have a win this year. So I think now you start to feel like, okay, the way this offense looks, the way that Joe Flacco's throwing the ball to Jamar Chase and T Higgins, we have at least some level of hope here. I think trading Hendrickson was at least a possibility. How they kept losing games and they went into the deadline 2-6 or 2-7 somewhere in there. That's not going to happen now, right? Especially, obviously, if they're going to go and beat the Jets this week and get themselves back over 500, then they look okay all of the sudden, right? They look like maybe we can contend for a wild card and wait till Joe Burrow gets back. So I don't think at this point he's getting traded now. I did think that it was going to happen maybe a couple weeks ago, but this Steelers win was really a big moment for them, getting that win, getting back into the mix of things a little bit, and just feeling good about their offense.
And sort of in that same vein, right? Depending on where the team is at, could affect this one. The second player on ESPN's list is Jalen Waddle, a very talented receiver. Miami's sort of imploding, but here's the conflict of interest, right? Mike McDaniel hasn't been fired yet. Jalen Waddle on his team helps him win games, which could save his job. So I don't know if he's in the business of wanting to trade guys for future assets that he may never be able to use, he or Chris Greer for that matter. What about Jalen Waddle?
Yeah, that would be the big question, really, is I think that would come down to Chris Greer and feeling like, because that's a long-term move. And I think there's other moves where they've kind of punted and started preparing their salary cap for future years, right? The Jalen Ramsey trade, the Jonnu Smith trade. I think they've made other moves where they're looking at a long-term vision of this, because obviously the short term is not very good, and it may not be those. It's pretty likely, it seems, that it won't be those same people running the team moving forward. So I think Waddle would have an appeal to a lot of teams looking for, especially a really good second, or even on some stacked teams, a third receiver that could help out a lot, and he's very explosive. He's still really good. It's just that Miami situation offensively has not been good this year. So if he were put on the market, I think there'd be a ton of interest in him because he's got a lot of talent.
Well, Dalton, unfortunately, the Jets do have to look at their roster inwardly right now. Anytime you're 0-7, you're likely going to be a seller, and you have to look at contracts, and you have to look at whether you're going to be able to hold on to certain people, and Breece Hall is at the top of that list. Let me ask you, is there a good fit out there in the NFL for Breece Hall?
I was thinking about this yesterday, and I don't know that there's a ton of fits as far as, a team that's missing that workhorse back, like running back is their only issue. I do think if he went to a team where he could be kind of more of a 50-50 back, or even a guy who can rotate in a certain role, I think even a team, let's say like the Philadelphia Eagles, who I don't think they have much behind Saquon Barkley, and Hall could take some receiving work. I think, a team like I'm trying to think of one, like the San Francisco 49ers. They have Brian Robinson. There's other teams that look for depth all the time. Even the Green Bay Packers is another good one, where Josh Jacobs carries so much of that load, and there's not a ton of depth behind him. I think Hall, as a second threat in a backfield who can come in and learn the system gradually and still put in a lot of good work as a receiver, I think that makes sense. There just doesn't seem to be a ton of teams to me that are a starting caliber running back away because they're so thin at running back, right? I think if you brought him in as depth and a guy, just another weapon in the room, I think that could be an excellent pickup for somebody.
What do you think of the Chiefs? Would the Chiefs be a fit? Pacheco's been showing some signs, but I mean, he's not the guy that he looked like a couple of years ago. I don't know whether it's the injuries or what it is, or just the amount of carries he's, the load that he has had for a while. Could that be a fit for Breece?
I think unless an injury occurs or something of that nature in the next week or two, I think the Chiefs are going to stand pat with that. Pacheco's looked a little bit better lately. Kareem Hunt's obviously solid in short yardage situations. And something that happened this past week, their third back, the rookie seventh rounder out of SMU, Brashard Smith, he started getting a lot of run in this last game against the Raiders. And he's got that versatility to line up out wide as a receiver, as a former receiver in college, or he can get in the backfield and run from there too. So I think the emergence of Brashard Smith, if they're going to continue to use him more and more, especially in the passing game, kind of leans them away from any Breece Hall trade talks.
Okay. Yeah, Dalton, I'm going to be honest. When I was in the offseason, I dreamed of the Jets being in this position of adding talent. Ooh, who are we going to add for this playoff run? And unfortunately, at 0-7, it's the opposite. On that ESPN list I mentioned, the Jets have 3 of the top 12 players listed. Unfortunately, that is the most representation of any team in the National Football League inside that top 12. The other 2 players being Jermaine Johnson and Michael Carter II. How close is this, if at all, to a complete fire sale for the New York Jets? Because it's interesting how their schedule works out. You mentioned they play the Bengals this week. They're a heavy underdog, of course. Then they have the bye week, and then they're back. And that sort of placed exactly where the trade deadline is. So the Jets could be staring themselves in the mirror after a potential Bengals loss at 0-8 and really questioning their future. What say you about the potential of the term fire sale used with the Jets?
Yeah, I think there's levels to it. There's guys who are obviously in shorter term situations like a Breece Hall, like Jermaine Johnson, who are more likely to get traded because it doesn't come with the big financial commitment, right? So is it going to be nobody? Is it going to be those guys? And then there's some of the heavy hitters when you talk about Quinnen Williams' name has been brought up. I think along with Quincy Williams at linebacker, there'd be a lot of interest in him. Michael Carter, a team looking for a nickel. He could be a solid piece. Is it those guys that are locked up for maybe a little bit longer than just this year that are also on the move, and this is really going to turn into a 2, 3, 4-year project as far as this rebuild for the Jets and tearing it down right now? I think there are two different levels to it. I think the first one is probably more likely when you talk about, I think Breece Hall is probably going to get traded. That would just make sense to me. He's in the last year of his deal, and look, letting him just ride out the end of this season on the Jets where they may or may not even win a game doesn't make a whole lot of sense if a team is going to offer you a 4th or maybe even a 3rd round pick for him. So the bigger names are going to be the bigger talk. I think you're going to hear a lot of talk about Quinnen Williams and where that situation is at, but I do think there's different levels to it right now with them.
Talking with Dalton Wasserman, PFF, our NFL insider. We do this live every single Wednesday at 11 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. By the way, pop the like button while you're hanging out with us here. Dalton, today's broadcast, by the way, brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria. We'll tell you a little bit more about Cam's in just a couple of moments. Let me ask you about my Giants here for a second, because there was some rumor since the last time we talked to you last week that the Giants were going big name hunting. You're mentioning people like Chris Olave and some of these receivers, and that the Giants, who are not likely in a position to win a ton of ball games this year or certainly get to the playoffs, but they do seem to be looking to the future now that it looks like they've found a franchise quarterback. Let's talk about the Giants, and will they actually be buyers rather than sellers here at the trade deadline?
I don't think so. You could have convinced me more of this had they won the Bronco game on Sunday. Had they finished that off and they really had.
They did win that game. What are you talking about? They won that game. I was watching. It's 19-0, and then what do you mean? They lost that game? Oh, never mind. Okay.
In our hearts, they won that game. I think it's one of those things where if you got that win in Denver and you really had the sustained momentum going of the way they've played since Jackson Dart came in, then you're talking about, okay, we beat Denver, and who knows, what if they go out there into Philly and beat Philly a second time this coming week, right? Then you really start to talk about that. But it's those little things and just that one win or loss that can make a difference. I think they're going to look more into that in the offseason. Honestly, I think obviously offensive line is a concern too for the long term, but in the offseason, you can look for another, like a number 2, something like that, alongside Malik Neighbors. You're getting Malik Neighbors back next season, which is obviously a huge deal. So had they won the Denver game, I think this would have been more of a conversation, but I see them probably standing pat.
I really don't want to rehash it, but go ahead, Dalton. I'll let you have a moment here to talk about that game. We talked about it ad nauseum on Monday, went through the blow-by-blow. But let's go ahead. Give me your take on how bad a collapse that was, how devastating a loss that was, and were there some things along the way that you were like, are you kidding me? Why didn't you do this instead of that?
I think I don't think devastating so much. I mean, obviously it's not great to lose and blow such a big lead like that when you had it so late. But I also think that just comes with young teams. And, sometimes a young team loses momentum. It gets away from them. And look, they even got it back, right? They got it back and took a lead late, albeit a 2-point lead. That was not a 3-point lead because of a missed extra point. But I think that comes with a young team learning how to win sometimes and learning how to finish games. I think really the biggest play of the game to me was the Jackson Dart interception on that 3rd and 5, right? Even if that's incomplete or just a sack or anything else happens there, punt it away up 10 with under 5 minutes left, you feel good about it. So no, it was just a big confluence of things in a game that, honest, with the Broncos scoring 33 in the 4th quarter, we've never seen before. It's not going to be a thing that happens every week. So as long as they don't make a habit of it and struggle to finish games, then I don't think it's a big worry. It's just a young team that's got to learn how to win, and it's a weird situation.
Yeah, well, I should have gone out for a snack. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Cam's Pizzeria. Just to get my mind off that, let me get my mind on some food. We'll be right back.
When you think of Cam's Pizzeria, think about 2 of your favorites. their zesty buffalo chicken wing pizza, or their tasty chicken bacon ranch. Over 16 specialty pizzas made fresh daily with the best ingredients. Indulge in their homemade calzones, subs, wraps, salads, and their famous cannolis for dessert. They're all made with love just for you. Order online for 10% off at camspizza.com. Locations in Camillus and Oswego. Cam's Pizzeria. It's love at first slice.
We're talking all things NFL with Dalton Wasserman from PFF, our NFL insider. We do a live broadcast with Dalton every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Don't forget, hit the red subscribe button. Be part of our little family here. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital. We're, by the way, folks, we're giving away a golf club to one of our first 500 subscribers. This brand new, yes, Cleveland Highbore XL. There's the nice Cleveland logo. Still wrapped up in the lovely plastic and paper. This baby has not been hit. It's a $400 value, and all you have to do is click subscribe right now, and you will be in the lottery for it. As soon as we get to 500 subscribers, we're going to give away that golf club. And if you are somewhere outside of the central New York area where I live, we'll be shipping it to you directly. So get in on it now. Absolutely, positively free. I think I've mentioned to you, you are a golfer, Dalton, right? You said you would get out there and swing that club if you could, or you're not much of a golfer, but you said you would anyway. Yes? No, I can't remember.
Nope. Never played a round of golf in my life.
This club could change your life, Dalton. You could have you playing golf every day. Think about that. All right, go ahead.
Could work the magic there. Could happen.
First, by the way, Lerch, did it work?
What?
You said that that you were going to take your mind off the Giants with that Cam's Pizzeria commercial, so seeing the wonderful food.
I think for the next 3 weeks, I'll be thinking about that horrific ending to that game.
So sorry about that. Anywho, I thought I'd give that the old couch try. That totally makes
maybe
sense.
if I had a slice of Cam's in front of me, then I would. My mind would be off it. But
see, you know what? It wasn't worked until you mentioned it again. That's really what it was.
How did that happen? Whoops.
That's the problem right there.
I think I can use that analogy Lerch was trying to use earlier about throwing stones from an 0-7 glass house, but I'll try to avoid that.
I think I've been very kind about your 0-7 team these days, but it has to be mentioned. I mean, it is what it is, as they say.
All right. Well, let's do a halfback misdirection play. Let's immediately go in a different direction.
We'll reverse here.
What about the Green Bay Packers? Are they for real or are they fugazi? Dalton Wasserman.
I think they're for real. There's just times where, they're still one of the youngest teams in football, and I know they've been together a while, but they're still figuring some things out, right? I think there's certain positions on their team. You look at wide receiver and just the ideal way to use a guy like Matthew Golden with all of his speed and talent, right? Defensively, Micah Parsons has been incredible, possibly the defensive player of the year this year, but their pass defense on the back end, on the rare occasion that Parsons doesn't get to the quarterback, that still needs a little bit of work. So I think, they're not as good as, after 2 weeks, we thought they were the best team in football. They looked unstoppable, right? They're not quite that. I don't know that they're the best team in football, but when they get hot, when the pass rush with Parsons gets hot, when Jordan Love gets hot, they're really hard to beat. And I think you saw that even against the Cardinals this past week. They didn't play their best game, but the Cardinals left the door open, and the Packers are one of those teams that they're going to take advantage of opportunities you give them. So they are very, very good. I think they're an NFC contender, but they're not without their flaws either.
Couple other players I wanted to get into, Dalton, with you, trade deadline wise. Mark Andrews is rumored to be out there. Jacoby Myers, who's played very, very well in Oakland, another squad, or not Oakland, Las Vegas, I should say. These teams that are playing poorly, are they going to get rid of talented players? I mean, boy, Jacoby seems to have really found a nice home there, and yet he might be getting shipped off. And Andrews, well, he's just getting old. I mean, he's 30, and the production isn't the same as it once was. They do kind of have Isaiah Likely in the wings if that guy ever stays healthy. He certainly looks like a big athletic guy. Could either of those two teams move on from those guys, and who might be a good fit?
I think Myers is more likely just because he's had that request open since before the season, and he's just played through it. I think you got teams that looking for a role player at receiver like him. I would think the Philadelphia Eagles might look at him as a third guy. I think he would have some use. Trying to think, there was another one I just had in my head right now. The Pittsburgh Steelers, that was it. The Pittsburgh Steelers could definitely use a second guy, a possession type receiver like him. I think even maybe the Buffalo Bills would check in because they've got a lot of guys who are playing okay, but just there's not a very high ceiling there. I think Myers would raise that just a little bit. So no, I think Myers is the more likely of the two. I just feel like with the Ravens, maybe depending in the next 2 weeks, if Lamar Jackson gets back this week or the week after, if they can get hot with Lamar Jackson, if they get him back soon before the trade deadline, then they feel like, let's keep it together and just try to keep this offense in here to carry us. But Myers feels like a guy who really is a prime candidate to be traded.
to that last point you just made, can Lamar Jackson save the day here for Baltimore in this terrible record? Let's say they come back this week. The Vegas lines and how they're coming out seem to suggest they believe that Lamar is going to be coming back this week based on some of those point spreads, which I'll be texting out later today for our group for this week. Wink. But can he solve the day? Because their defense is awful. So last time I checked, Lamar is going to be pulling a Travis Hunter. He's not going to be lining up on the defensive side of the ball, though they could use that help. So he will do a lot on offense, but is that enough to save the day?
He's got to come back either this week or maybe next week, and he's got to play at an MVP level. And you mentioned it, the defense is just as big a problem right now as Lamar not playing. It's been one of the worst defenses in the NFL in the early part of the season. They've got to at least play decent football. They don't need to be the best defense in football if Lamar plays up to his capability and they get the run game going again with Derrick Henry. They can score plenty of points, but they do need that to get better. And even this week, if they're going to win this week, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Cooper Rush, the Bears in their run game, they've really gotten it going. They're on a 4-game winning streak. They're feeling really good about themselves right now. So if you don't have a defense any given week, especially in road games against a team with momentum like that, then you're going to lose again. And then you start having those conversations of like, okay, we're in an even deeper hole now than we were last week. All of a sudden you're 1-6. Not great. Not a great position to be in, even with an MVP quarterback.
I'll talk to you about some good news stuff in the NFL for a minute, Dalton. I want to talk to you about the Seattle Seahawks. Sam Darnold, you know, he was good last year in Minnesota. They had quite a regular season. It didn't go so well in the playoffs for Sam. He's gone over to Seattle, and he seems to have found a new home. He has been as effective as he was, if not even more effective in Seattle than he was in Minnesota. And then you have this kid, Jackson Smith-Njigba. We haven't had a chance to talk about this young man. Man, he looks like the next coming. He looks like the next Jamar Chase. Let's talk about what he's done and what Sam has done in turning that Seattle franchise into a contender this year.
Yeah, Darnold looks awesome. And actually, so far this year, he's our highest graded passer in the NFL in our PFF grades. I mean, he's just been unbelievable. He doesn't necessarily sling it as often as, say, a Dak Prescott or somebody like that. But when he has been allowed to, and that's a team that wants to run the football too, he's just thrown it so well, especially deep down the field to Jackson Smith-Njigba. And that's really the difference with Smith-Njigba is that he's been used more and more each subsequent season as a deeper threat down the field, right? He's not just a slot guy that picks you off at 5-6 yards at a time. Now he's getting vertical, and Darnold's done such a great job of making all of those vertical throws while generally keeping the ball out of danger. That's what you want out of your quarterback. The chemistry with him and Clint Kubiak and this entire offense, it's come a lot sooner than I thought it would. I thought it would take time. They're a young team, new quarterback, new OC, but it really clicked just right away. And it's amazing to watch Darnold's development because he was really good last year. He looks significantly better even than that this year. He's been outstanding.
He's been amazing. Go ahead.
Last one, Dalton. How worried are you or concerned are you about the Buffalo Bills? They lost 2 in a row. They're coming out of the bye. They're playing Carolina. And while they look bad against the Jets, relatively speaking, like before that performance against the Jets, Rico Dowdle looked like the second coming of Barry Sanders. So, and now that's a home game, and Buffalo's coming out of the bye with that. So how concerned are you with the Buffalo Bills?
I'm concerned. I mean, I think as long as you have Josh Allen, you should make the postseason still. That's going to be the case. It's going to be a lot harder now to win the division the way New England's playing, and they have the easiest remaining schedule in the NFL. But no, Buffalo, look, I've always been, for a couple of years now, honestly, I've said this a lot at the end of last year, concerned about their defense. I just don't know that their defense can get it done in big spots. I like their defensive line with Greg Rousseau and Joey Bosa and those guys, but the back seven of their defense has been the reason they haven't made a Super Bowl yet in this era. I mean, and it's really not getting much better. And now you're saying the run defense cave in a little bit. You mentioned it in the matchup against Carolina this week. The Panthers have looked a lot better offensively at home. They've run the football really well lately. Their offensive line has been putting in work. I really think this is a sneaky, dangerous matchup for the Bills because a lot of people are going, well, the other Bills, they have Josh Allen, and that's the Panthers, but not that simple. You walk out on a field and you're the less physical team, you absolutely have a chance to lose that game. I am worried about the Bills defense.
All right, last one for me, Dalton, and then we'll run over to the comments and get a couple in before we let you go. Another feel-good story, at least so far this season, and I just asked this question. How the heck are the 49ers doing this?
Kyle Shanahan. I'm of the belief at this point, there's some great Coach of the Year candidates. You talk about Mike Vrabel in New England. You talk about Shane Steichen in Indianapolis. And I think for as great a job as those guys are doing, if the 49ers find any way to make the playoffs, I don't care, wild card, division, whatever.
Remarkable.
If they make the playoffs at all with all these injuries, Kyle Shanahan should win Coach of the Year hands down. It's amazing with Mac Jones at quarterback, with Christian McCaffrey coming back from his injuries last year. Kittle was out. Ayuk still hasn't played. Jennings in and out. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. I mean, it's not just, some guys get hurt that help our team. These are your best players. These are some of the best players in the NFL that get hurt, and some of them are out for the season, and they still manage to win games against really good football teams, the Rams, the Falcons, these other teams they're beating. If they make the playoffs, I think Kyle Shanahan should win Coach of the Year, because this is maybe, among all the Super Bowls he's made and all this, this might be the best coaching job he's ever done.
All right, we're talking with Dalton Wasserman, PFF, our insider, all things NFL. Go ahead, Boy Green. Jump back in.
Yeah, just a quickie, just because I'm texting you guys because I'm a multitasker extraordinaire. Thank you very much. Make sure
a sheet, yes.
Make sure we factor that in for my yearly raise. I just want that to be accounted for. But Dalton, one of the weird spreads, we're coming off San Francisco, so I just wanted to bring it up. San Francisco opened as a favorite this week. They're now an underdog to the Houston Texans, who stink. How does that Vegas line make any sense? Your initial thoughts: Texans at home are a 1.5 point favorite over the 49ers. They opened as a 1.5 point dog. The line shifted in the last couple of days.
Very tough read to get a very tough game, I should say, to get a read on. I think in part because it is on the road. Obviously, Houston going down there and dealing with that. I mean, their defense, Houston's defense is elite. I mean, there's no question. There is no question about that. The battle is going to be, once again, how Kyle Shanahan and whichever quarterback is playing this week, because maybe Brock Purdy will be back this week, whichever one it's going to be, how Kyle Shanahan mitigates that defense and that pass rush with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter out there in Houston, because they've got an excellent defense, especially their pass defense. So I'd expect them to ride McCaffrey to try to win this game again, to try to slow the game down like they did against Atlanta. But home cooking, close game, I think a very hard game to get a read on. Me personally, I'm picking San Francisco. I have a hard time trusting Houston's offense and their offensive line, and the 49ers run defense has been a lot better than I expected. So that's an issue. And if you make the Texans one-dimensional right now, they have some issues in pass protection.
And we have one of those classics, right? D'Amico Ryans came from San Francisco, so Shanahan knows him intimately well, but he knows he knows him intimately well, so he has the advantage of the disadvantage of his advantage.
All right, a quick couple from the comments here, Dalton, before we let you go. Jamie, the FedEx guy, says, my Bears are on a 4-game winning streak. Should they add to their defense? Should the Bears add a piece here at the trade deadline?
Yeah, I think if they could find some help at corner or another pass rusher, the one thing that I think that I noticed watching them is that they have a hard time getting to quarterbacks without blitzing. And Dennis Allen is a heavy blitzer, and he's really turned that up in the last few weeks. That's been part of the reason their defense has been better. But some more help on the defensive line, I think. I don't know if it would be a major name like a Quinnen Williams or somebody a little bit lower that gives you a rotational pass rush kind of help. But I think help in the pass rush would help their defense a lot.
All right, fair enough. And one more here we'll throw up on the screen, and that is, has Baltimore in their history ever had a bad defense? I mean, we'd have to go back to when they were, in another city. Go ahead.
Oh, well.
I think maybe, was it 8 or 9 years ago? There was a year maybe before Lamar Jackson was their starter. There was maybe 1 year where I don't know if it was this bad, but they weren't great. I forget what year. I almost want to say, was it 2016 or something like that? It's been a long time. We don't usually see this. We've only seen it this bad maybe 2 or 3 times ever in Baltimore's history since they've been there. So it's certainly unusual, and it's something they need to turn around. Like we mentioned before, even if Lamar gets back healthy this week, their defense has got to play a lot better. There's going to be too much pressure on them to carry it.
All right. Fair enough. Dalton Wasserman, as always, my friend. Good to have you here on Wednesdays. Thanks for taking the time.
Appreciate you guys as always. Thank you.
All right. There he is, PFF's one and only Dalton Wasserman. He joins us every single Wednesday to talk all things NFL in our live Wednesday broadcast. All right. A couple of things to chew on there, Boy Green, as we chew the fat coming out of that. A couple of things that I want to get into. Number one, we were chatting about this a little bit off air. The Chicago Bears. I'm ready to go on the record, Boy Green, and say this. Way too early prediction, but who cares? Let's get in on it while we can. I know they're in a tough division. I know that the odds are kind of stacked against them in terms of how it all looks. I was looking at their schedule this morning and going, oh, darn, it's not quite, what I was hoping it would be in order for this to be true. But I'm still going to go way too early prediction. The 4-2, currently 4-2 Bears make the playoffs this year in the NFL. The 4-2 Bears make the playoffs. I'm way too early prediction. You getting in on that or you out?
Okay, well, let's throw it up here on the bingo card so we can all see this together. So they're 4-2, and here's their remaining schedule. I know Dalton left it up in the air. I'm not a doctor, but I think Lamar Jackson is playing in this game.
He's playing.
So that's a loss. So they're going to go to 4-3. Cincinnati, you would think that they have every opportunity to win that game. I'll give it to them. Let's say they go 5.
You have to. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, but Jackson Dart and the Giants. Oh, Lerch, that's going to be a clear L, right?
It's a road game, right, for the Giants. This is a home game for the Bears. Never easy to play in Chicago. You don't know what the weather's going to be like in November. So advantage Bears. No question about it there.
Okay, all right, there you go. So there's another win. That gets them to 6 wins. They've got Minnesota in Minnesota. I would assume J.J. McCarthy's back at this point in the middle of November.
That could be good news for the Bears.
Well, I guess that's true, depending on which one.
Minnesota's solid, but not unbeatable. Winnable game.
Fine.
That's a 50-50 game to me. 50-50.
We'll give them the win. That's 7. Now we're at Pittsburgh. I don't know, man.
That game's in Chicago, not in Pittsburgh. That's a difference. In Chicago,
that's true.
They play Pittsburgh, and Aaron Rodgers, you can get to that guy. You can get to that old man.
Okay, sure.
And winnable are they going to? I don't know, but winnable.
Fine. Okay, now they're at 8 wins. Okay, at Philadelphia, they're losing that one. So let's put that loss.
Probably, unless the Eagles fall apart by then. There are a lot of signs that could happen, but we'll see.
At Green Bay, I mean, I still believe the Packers own the Chicago Bears, according to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, they do. They do. So I guess we'll leave that, and that's on the road too. So we won't even touch that. Even though Green Bay is not what we thought that they would be, at least what we've seen so far.
Yeah,
maybe they can turn it around.
Yeah, Cleveland is just so sneaky. Their defense is amazing. And win?
Stop. Wow. That's a win for the Bears. It's at home. They got to beat the Browns at home if they want to do anything this season. They have to beat the Browns at home.
All right. Well, they're getting swept by the Packers, so that one, that's another
L. We'll see about that. We'll see about that.
At San Francisco?
The way the Niners are playing, if that thing is still on the rails by the week 17, it might be more on the rails, and they might have guys back. That's trouble. That's trouble.
And then Detroit, that's trouble.
Yeah, that's trouble too. That's why I say their schedule's not great, but I'm still going to stick my neck out for the Bears. I don't know.
And you said they're going to – what did you say they're going
to – So they have 4 now. So let me tell you what I'm willing to give them.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
5 for Baltimore, 6 for Cincinnati, 7 for the Giants. Now, if they did that, by the way, they'd be on a 7-game winning streak, right? Because I think they've won 4 in a row. So that's a little nuts in itself to even say that. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it just based on paper. This is paper champion, not real champion. All right, so that would get them to 7.
Okay.
I mean, all right. Cleveland's definitely 8.
I don't know. That's definitely it, but okay.
You can get one of either the Minnesota or the Pittsburgh, so I'll give them 9 there.
All right.
And I'm going to give them one of the 2 Green Bay games, 10. So they can get to 10 in my estimation.
Oh.
If all the winds are blowing right, they could get to 10. Would 10 be playoffs? Probably.
There have 10 in the new era. There still has been a 10-win team that hasn't made it. That's Seattle, as a matter of fact. That just happened within the last 2 years. So they've been a 10-win team that didn't make it. But
I could convince myself to 10. It's convincing. There's convincing there. I'm twisting my own arm, but I could get there. I just like what I'm seeing from the Bears. Here's what I like. Maybe this is why I'm willing to go out on a limb without even having looked at the schedule. I was already saying this to you. I go, maybe I better go look at the schedule before I start proclaiming the Bears a playoff team. They are in a pretty tough division. There's a lot of teams in that division that are going to be contending for playoff spots above them, and they're going to have to pass those teams in order to do it. So that makes it even trickier. But I just like what I see in a young coach in Ben Johnson and how he's molding and sculpting this group. And he has done it, like last week. And again, we were talking about this a little bit in our pre-production. Last week, that win that they got.
The Saints, right?
Who did they play again? The Saints. Yeah. Okay. It's just the Saints. I know. You should win against the Saints. My Giants couldn't beat them, but, it's just the Saints. But it was the way they beat the Saints. They went away from their passing game. They went to Swift and Monangahi, and they just got it done. And they did it convincingly. Ben Johnson was willing to morph and change his thinking a little bit to say, this is their weakness. We're going to attack this weakness until we can attack it no more. And they were able to attack it right through the end of the game and won the game with barely having to throw the ball. All the fantasy people were like, oh my God, if you had Rome Odunze last week, you're like, what happened to Rome? They didn't even throw the ball to him. I think it was 2 catches for 31 yards.
Right. Caleb had 4 points. As
even DJ Moore was targeted like 7 or 8 times, like minimal yards. He had like 10 total fantasy points. So it was a nothing game for fantasy points in the passing game. Caleb, as you said, not good, but it didn't matter. They won the game and they won convincingly. All right. And I think we're going to see more of that from Ben Johnson. I think he's a good young coach. I think he's a good leader of men. We'll see. But I just have a feeling about these Bears. I just have a feeling about them, and I don't know what it is. Jamie, the FedEx guy's probably loving me right now, but I just have a feeling.
I'm sure. Well, Lerch, we always crack this can open every once in a while. When you're looking at a team, and then I have to grab this can off the shelf. And do you know what the can I'm about to grab off the shelf, Lerch?
What?
Who have they really beaten?
I know.
Look at Chicago.
Mhm.
They've beaten Vegas. They stink.
Bad.
They've beaten New Orleans.
They stink.
You openly question Washington. I don't know if that made the show yet, but
we're going to get to that next. It's right.
So we'll get into that. And then Dallas, fine. I'll give you Dallas, who I like a lot. So that's one win. But that's one win that I'm sort of impressed by. And then they lost their 2 division games to kick off the year against Minnesota and Detroit. And Detroit destroyed Ben Johnson, the Chicago Bears. And the Vikings game was at least close. So who have they beaten? They've beaten nobody. So where's the confidence of just like you seeing them smack around bad teams? Okay. Is that what they're supposed to do?
I suppose, but in the past, the Bears haven't been able to even do that.
Yes.
So it's progress. It's progress for the Bears. And maybe I'm reaching to say that they're going to be a playoff team. I just have a feeling. So I'm just getting.
So that's your bandwagon. So let me just confirm. You're like, hey, you want to hop on?
I don't know, but I'm starting up the bandwagon. I'm saying, all right, I'm not. Everybody, get on. Come on now.
Oh, is that a new shirt? Is that a new shirt you're wearing? Does that say Stairway to Playoffs? Is that where Chicago's going?
Baby, that's my fantasy team. That's my first place fantasy team, Boy Green. And not only first place in 1 league, but first place in 2 leagues, and second place in 3, and second place in the 3rd league. So that's 2 firsts and a second. Now this season is far from over, so let's not get out of hand. We're only 7 weeks in. Long way to go.
But interesting.
But it's a good
playoffs. Don't talk about playoffs.
Hey, by the way, Lerch, I saw at like 5:30 or 6 this morning a fresh reject on my fantasy trade. I try to do a nice thing for you, Lerch.
So
what a giver I am. I'm trying to go to you and say, hey, let's see if we can strike a deal, and just a firm slap on the tush.
That was an interesting one that you threw at me. Now, first of all, and I was like in class when it came in. I was like, oh, jeez, man.
Oh, damn, that was an early class.
Yeah, I had my 8 o'clock on Wednesday mornings, and public speakers at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
And so I saw it coming. I couldn't look at it then. I was like, oh, on my way out of class. I thought that you were sending me a trade in the Champs League, and I was like, ooh, this is going to be very interesting to see what he's even tossing at me, because in the Champs League right now, I'm in first and you're in second. All right.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that nice?
Representing for sure, but in dangerous proximity, when one guy's in first and the other guy's in second. All right. And as competitive as we are, not only towards the whole league, but towards each other. All right. Like, you don't want to do anything to help me, and I certainly don't want to do anything to help you, especially being in front of you. I don't want to give you a piece that puts you in front of me. What a disaster that would be. This is like the Jets and the Giants, dare I say, making a trade. That's why these things never happen, because you just, I'm helping that guy. He gets ahead of me, and I'm never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing rattling my cage. And then I saw, actually, it was in the Chumps League, okay? Because we are in the Champs, Chumps, and Triple C together, right? It was a Chumps League trade, if I remember correctly, right?
It was. That's correct, yeah.
And what was
the
trade?
Here it is for the Champs.
Yeah.
So
there's the Champs standings. Yep. Okay.
But it was injured for injured. It was Chris Godwin. For Aaron Jones. I assessed your roster and said, wow, this guy's got a lot of running backs, but he could use some help at receiver. And then on the other side.
So an injured guy for an injured guy. Number one, why do you want to trade an injured guy for an injured guy? And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'll give you my take on that, since I didn't give you any feedback. A lot of times I'll send a little note along with the trade, but it was just a banger. Like, no thanks, move on. Is because, in all honesty, I figured I'd talk to you anyway. But I do like to tell people, most of the time, it's not possible all the time, but in fantasy leagues that I play in, I generally am a communicator, and I like to tell people why I turned something down if I turned it down, or I will often counter. I got another trade offer last night while I was in class. Didn't get to look at it even until this morning, and then I was like, all right, I like where this person's going, and I could see myself making a trade of this ilk. I didn't like the players involved, so therefore I will likely counter that trade. And I reached back out to that individual and said, hey, I've been a little busy, but I saw your trade. Sorry I didn't respond right away, but listen, I'm probably gonna counter. If you're still interested, I'll get back to you. And that person was like, love to hear counter. And that was it. So now that's where it's at. Later today, I'll probably look through that roster and come up with a counter. You talk to me on this one, boy.
So let's communicate. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I just don't like Chris Godwin this year. I don't know if he's going to get back on the field or not. He's having a lot of problems. Those problems don't seem like to be good problems. And
Mike Evans is out for the year. A lot of
re-injured. He was like just about back. This is Godwin, and then he got re-injured, like doing something. Was it even in practice or something? I caught like a little breeze of it because he's not on my team. So I was like, what just happened to this guy? He re-aggravated the aggravation. And so I don't even know if he's going to get back on the field anytime soon. So he's just a player. I didn't like him in fantasy drafts this year. I didn't like him. I just haven't liked him. He's just not a player that I have any interest in. So even though Aaron Jones, I have said to you, I traded you in one of our leagues, Jordan Mason.
Champs League,
who was terrific. It was terrific for me, but he wasn't playing. He was on my bench because I have good running backs. And I ended up finally making a trade with you. You're a little bit running back depleted. And I said this to you, and I meant it. I think when Jones comes back, and I think he's supposed to be back maybe this week, next week, the latest.
Yeah, it's somewhere in there. Yeah,
he's closing in. He had a more conventional injury than what's going on with Godwin, which just seems like a windfall of weird things. All right. So he's expected back soon. But I honestly think when he comes back that Mason is still going to be number one and that he's just going to kind of be like a third down back, and spell him. I think Mason has done enough to win that job. Between what he did last year for another team, right? It was the 49ers, right? That he filled in and did so well, and what he's done this year. And I also think that Mason's going to get the goal line carries too, because he's a bit of a battering ram, and he's pretty secure with the ball. So I actually, if I had the choice of having one of those two guys, Mason or Jones, the rest of this year, even right now with Jones on the precipice of coming back, I want Mason. I don't want Jones. I believe Mason is the guy. We'll see. I don't know. That's going to be great for you in our trade if that's the case, and you got yourself an RB1 or a guy that's at least the starter and getting the goal line carries, which is what you want. Starter and goal line carries. Those are big, all right? Unless it's a pass-catching type of back. And I think Aaron Jones will be a factor. They're not going to forget about him. They're still paying him money. But I just think he's going to be more like the change-up and the third down back. And they got a lot of pretty good receivers that they throw to on third down. And there's a guy named Justin Jefferson that probably should get most of the third down catches. So I just don't like what it will look like when Aaron Jones gets back. So for that reason, I probably would be willing to trade him, but I'm just not interested in Chris Godwin. So maybe something else is out there, Boy Green, that we could put together. But Chris Godwin, not the answer for me. Not
fair enough.
There you go. We've talked it out. You feel better now?
No, absolutely not. That we haven't struck a trade, but maybe it can happen in the future. But yeah, the communication is cool. I think that's a cool part. I know Joe Bardo, our RotoWire fantasy football expert, gives me a lot of crap for communicating beyond the means of just blind trades. But I don't know. I like hearing a person's thought process. What do they value on their team? What do they view as strengths or weaknesses on their roster? So I think communication, quite frankly, makes things transparent. Everyone says I have some, siren song that I sing on the ocean and I lure people in to their crashing death. But I don't know. I think it's, really intriguing to hear thought process.
All right. Some feedback coming in on some of the things we've said. I'll jump on over quick. Badshaw, always active, says, I don't think the Bears make the playoffs. He followed that up with, I think the Giants make the playoffs before the Bears do. Well, that'd be nice. There's something there. And then he followed that up with one more question here that maybe we can deal with, and that is, how do you all feel about the Commanders this year? I thought they fluked last season. Let's take that head on, because you and I were talking before the show about this, and in particular, we were talking about the quarterback in Washington, and that is Jaden Daniels. And I said this to Boy Green, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. But in watching the Houston Texans and what has happened to C.J. Stroud, okay, from that rookie campaign where it was like, oh my God, man, who picked one that year? Because Stroud was the number 2 pick. I forget who picked one, and they picked a quarterback in front of C.J. Stroud. I'm trying to remember who the heck it was off the top of my head. You're Mr. Draft.
I know.
Bingo. I can't believe you don't know that. All right. But anyway, that's 3 years ago. So C.J. Stroud was picked number 2, okay, by also quarterback needy Houston Texans. And in his rookie year, he was incredible.
Oh, Bryce Young. I didn't even have to look it up. Bryce Young. Yes.
There you go. I knew you'd remember.
It just hit me. Yeah, there you go.
Typical Carolina. They got it wrong. Houston nailed it. They had the second pick and got the better guy, and Stroud was amazing in his rookie year. Last year, he had major regression, and this year it looks even worse. And it looks like is this guy even a franchise? Is this guy even going to be a starting quarterback in a couple of years ago? It's just all going wrong. Now, part of that is personnel. You got to look at that a little bit. They just don't have, other than Nico Collins, they need to put, they at one point they had a Tank Dell that was looking really good and all these other guys, and now it's just Nico. Now Nico's got a concussion, and it's just a bunch of guys, and they're throwing out retreads, and their offensive line, they traded away their best offensive lineman, Laramie Tunsil.
Confusing. Yeah.
It's just confounding what they've done offensively to this guy. They got this great young quarterback, and they're pulling pieces out of it instead of putting pieces into it. I don't understand it. So it's not all on Stroud, but the fact of the matter is Stroud just looks like a not a confident thrower of the ball, not a confident player right now. And who knows what his future is? I mean, is it, can he do a revitalization and become a Sam Darnold type, or is he just going to flame out, which happens to so many guys? And I said to you, Paul, because it just made me think of again, this is a very small sample size, but I am seeing some of the same things with Jaden Daniels in Washington. Let's not forget what Washington was at the end of last year and in the playoffs. Washington was like, what? What are
NFC Championship game? Yeah.
What are they doing here? Okay, and we were all like, "Wow, are they ahead of schedule?" Well, no, they don't look so ahead of schedule. They look kind of like a mediocrity in an NFC East division that is not all that particularly great, to be honest with you. Okay, and even now, I know Daniels has had some injuries this year, but that was one of the things I said about him from the gate. Okay, even during his amazing year last year, he keeps running like this. This guy is thin of frame. He's going to get beat up. He is not going to be able to be in there for 17 games a year. You need your quarterback to play in the NFL. And if they're going to be out, they have to be out for a week or two. If they're out for a month or two, you're in big trouble. And so he's already spent some time on the IR, and now he's back, but he just doesn't look like the same guy. Now, it's a very small sample size, and McLaurin should be back in the lineup either this week or next week. That's going to help him. They do actually have some weapons there. Debo,
yeah.
He's supposed to play again this week. So when they have their full team, then maybe I'll be the judge of this. But I'm feeling some of the same vibe for Jaden Daniels. I hope that, that Commanders organization, which has been lousy because they had a lousy owner for a long time. Now they have a whole new regime. Everybody's giving them the big golf claps, except, or the big loud claps. But now those claps are turning to golf claps because that organization doesn't look the same as it looked last year. All right. There are some reasons for that, but in the end, they're not winning like they won last year. So let's see what they do the rest of the season. But I'm concerned about Jaden Daniels and where this Commander squad will be by the time this year ends. Are they back to being a mediocrity? Were they way ahead of schedule last year or not? Give me your take on that.
Well, I think clearly they're way ahead of schedule. No one possibly had them in the NFC Championship game. So Jaden Daniels surprising the league 100%. You have to give that tip of the cap there for that. I would say I'm less worried about it for this year of just Jaden Daniels himself being this problem because of all the other issues that exist. You mentioned it. Terry McLaurin's been out basically the entire season with this injury. Debo, I got to give credit. I thought when Debo was traded for a half-eaten bag of Doritos, I'm like, Debo's sort of gone. Like the sauce is gone. And he's been spectacular this year when he's on the field. The fantasy numbers are great. The stats look really good. They've been very creative. A big shout out to Cliff Kingsbury, obviously, who didn't take a head coaching gig. He was basically offered the Saints job. He said, no thanks. I'm just going to stay in my role. And he's been masterful with that creativity. Obviously, Jaden Daniels himself has been banged up. I think part of that is some of the offensive line play has been questionable. Also, the other thing that just stinks, Austin Eckler blows out his Achilles again, and they lose that guy in the backfield. And now they've sort of just been hemming and hawing, figuring it out with all these random guys in the backfield. So I think he's been hurt by all the hurt around him, and thus it's all sort of collapsing. So I feel less like, oh boy, is Jaden Daniels really as good as we thought? Did we overreact? As opposed to in the circumstance of the season, pocketing and bottling up all the narratives and storylines and things of that nature. That's where I sort of go, you know what? I just think there's a lot of injuries, and he's just sort of succumbing to that. You would hope if you have a franchise quarterback, they can overcome those things, and so far he hasn't.
Yeah, I'm a little bit agree with Bacho, though, that it might have been a little bit of a fluke last year. Now, fluke that they got as far as they got, not a fluke that they became a better team. I do think they're still a better team today, all right? But how good are they? They're lucky. They're in a division where they, a couple of games go their way, and they could be right at the top of this division, certainly in second place in this division with, sure, the Giants are showing a little bit. The Cowboys, that offense, looks really, really good. I don't know how long they can protect against that terrible defense, but the offense does look good. But I don't know if Washington's the same team they were last year. I think when it's all said and done, they won't be. I do think last year might have been a little bit of a fluke. as they say. Here's an interesting comment coming in from, I think this is Joe. Yeah. Joe Boom Jets says, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts all play the same, except Hurts has his bailouts and Daniels' weapons are hurt. So he's saying, hey, some of this belongs on the weapons being out. Give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would also add that I think a significant difference between Jalen Hurts and Jaden Daniels, despite the fact they play in the same division, is girth. Jalen Hurts is a well-built man.
One guy's thick, one guy's not thick.
Right. And it's just in optics, but also it's proving in results so far that, like, when I see Jaden Daniels, I'm like, man, he looks slender. Man, his build is very narrow, and man, and the way he plays opens him up to all kinds of additional shots that your typical normal quarterback doesn't take. And I openly question, can he stay healthy playing the way he's playing, or does he have to change his game? Jalen Hurts is built like a Mack truck. I mean, the reason why tush push works so well is he squats 600 pounds in the offseason. You can see his lower frame is well put together, and he can withstand a lot of the hits. He's been hurt in his career, but man, he's just built in a way that he can withstand it more, especially at the NFL level. I'm not quite there yet with Jaden. So maybe that's another thing that Washington has to go to town with him and really work on the strength and conditioning program to get him in a better spot physically to be able to withstand what the NFL is. And maybe that's a conversation we had, because you want to build him up strength-wise, but you don't want to take away some of his God-given gifts and the uniqueness and the fluidity to his running style. Some of that could be taken away if you add too much weight. Then all of a sudden, that's that fine line with pass rushers we talk about too, of that still having that bend around the edge, but enough weight to sort of hold yourself in run support. So I think they may have that kind of conversation there at quarterback too.
And I also think that just some of us are meant to be thin and some of us are meant to be thick. Yeah. And I think that Jalen Hurts just seems kind of, ever since I've seen him ever play football, I mean, I don't know what he was like as a kid, but he just has some thickness to him, particularly his lower body. He squats like 700 pounds or something 100%.
Crazy. It's unbelievable.
Some crazy thing, which is why they are, so effective in that tush push with him. He has that lower body leverage that, not too many humans on the planet have, for crying out loud.
Of course.
Especially a guy his size. And Daniels is built, I remember when Hakeem Warwick came and played for the Syracuse Orange in basketball. All right. He was just this beanpole. All right. And they thought like, okay, he just put on a few pounds and he'll be good. And, he was trying to put on pounds. This guy was like sucking down protein shakes. And like when he put on weight, you could even tell he put it on. He's like a paperclip. I mean, it's like, all right, you're not going to turn a paperclip into, I don't know what you could turn a paperclip into that would be thick, but you get my point, right? It's not going to happen. So he's going to have to play with, what he is. But I just think that's just the way he's built. And I just don't think that he's built to be a runner in football. And just to go back to Hurts for a second, by the way, Boy Green, and the stats would bear this out. I was reading an article earlier this week about this, so I know it's backed up by stats. This is not just touchy-feely. The Philadelphia Eagles are not using Hurts the way that they have used him in the past in their running game. Now, you're seeing him a ton in the tush push. We see him all the time,
Of course.
But they're not running RPOs and stuff for him these days. Now, I wonder, is that by design, because he's been banged up a bit, over the last couple of seasons, and they just don't want to do it and waste him, dare I say, in the regular season, and particularly early in the regular season when the games aren't quite as meaningful as they are down the stretch, and obviously once you get into the playoffs. Remember a couple of years ago, that suddenly the Bills were calming Josh Allen. Josh Allen was running wild during regular season games, and then by the end of the year, he wasn't as effective in the playoffs because he was so beat up. And the Bills literally built it into their game plan. Sean McDermott outwardly talked about it. We're not going to let him run as much, early in the year. We need for Josh to slowly but surely work that into his game during the season. We don't want him getting beat up. Maybe there's something there with the Eagles seeing that and saying, we're not going to use Hurts as a runner other than when he just scrambles on his own. Forget about the RPOs, forget about the things that were design runs. We're keeping that out of the playbook for weeks 1 to 8 or 1 to 9 or 1 to 10, but then we'll start installing them back week 11, getting ourselves ready for the playoffs, and then it's in full bloom come playoff time. Maybe that's their plan. Maybe it's not. I don't know why they're not running the ball with Jalen Hurts as much, but they're not, and the numbers completely bear it out. And some people are pointing to that as a problem with the Eagles, but it might be a problem by design is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think you could be onto something because, again, the Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. They've been to the game multiple times. 3 times in 8 years have they been to the Super Bowl? So their strategy has apparently worked. And, again, Jalen Hurts continues to evolve. Last week he had 350 passing yards and 290 of the 350 were to Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. So he is a constantly evolving figure. I would say real quick on this one, because maybe some people just didn't stay up late for the double Monday Night Football games. Unfortunately,
he's done.
Yeah, Mike Evans on a diving play, he seemingly made the catch, but didn't finish the process of the catch. It landed hard on what they were calling a shoulder. Yeah, he has a broken clavicle, so very likely out for the majority of the season. Again, I don't see why they're trying to bring him back at the end for a potential heel there, which means Mike Evans' historic 1,000-yard streak is likely to come to an end. Disappointing, terrible news. He's a tough son of a gun. He's battled all kinds of injuries over the years, but he was shrieking in pain. They were describing on the Monday Night Football broadcast when he was carted away. Awful news. And yes, so he is out for the season, or out for like the majority of the rest of the season.
It'll be the rest of fantasy season.
Right. Well, right. That's another way to put it.
Could he potentially get back if they got in the playoffs? Maybe.
So terrible news there for Mike Evans.
So it's concussion and a broken clavicle, which is the shoulder bone that he landed on, trying to reach for a catch. It looked like he had it too, but I think the pain just literally made it pop out of his hands because he had kind of brought it in, and then like after he hit the ground, just boom, boom. Probably banging his head plus banging the shoulder and breaking the bone probably just made him out of pain drop the ball. So that was a shame. And it's funny, you want a little inside story here, Boy Green. We're talking about trades and fantasy So that game was what, Monday night?
Correct. Yep.
I rarely talk trade with people on Sundays. All right. Because, the football games are going on. But I don't know. I was just poking around. And one of the things that I was just kind of thinking like, well, it'd be fun if I could do this by the end of the year for at least a couple of my fantasy teams. All of my fantasy teams are named, as you see, Stairway to Evans. All right.
Yes.
Our League team, my team is just called Stairway to Evans 2. In my Triple C team league, it's Stairway to Evans 3. So they're all Stairway to Evans. Okay.
Yeah, I like that.
So I was looking around to see who has Mike Evans, because I don't have Mike Evans on any of my 3 teams, even though my team is named after him. So I was like, wouldn't it be fun to get Evans on my roster on these teams so that I can kind of have my namesake?
Makes sense. Right.
So I said, and I like Mike Evans, and he was just coming back off of this first injury. And I was like, I think he could have a good bounce back second half of the season. I might be willing to give up something to get Mike Evans. So I reached out to Bill, the produce guy. Who has Mike Evans in the Triple C, and I put a trade. I didn't just reach out to him. I put a trade on the table for Evans, a very viable trade. I forget who I offered him, but it was another solid receiver. And it was just like, hey, I just want my namesake on my team. I'll give you this guy for this guy. Even Steven, no big deal. Wasn't looking for any big advantage here. Just give me my guy. I want to put him over here so that my team makes sense today, And he was like, we're playing each other this week, and I don't want to, blah, blah, blah. So he said, we'll talk, next time. And then if he had made that trade, I would have been stuck with Mike Evans, for the rest of the season, which, as you know, Mike Evans is done. So it would have actually been a great trade for Bill, the produce guy. Now he lost Evans. I'm not seeking him anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'll go if I want him on my team. Now I can go pick him up, put him on my IR, and he can just be represented over there. As long as I don't need the spot.
That's true.
Anyway, and I could probably do that in all 3 leagues shortly because
that's a good point.
If they aren't dropping him, they're crazy. He's done for the fantasy season. He's not coming back, so it would just be for fun. So that's much better for me that I could go out and get him for nothing.
Yeah, assemble. Quite frankly, for your team. That's hilarious.
I was going to approach all 3 leagues, all 3 guys who have him, and say, would you be willing to do something with me? Kind of an even Steven thing. Just because I want Evans on my team, see if anybody was willing to play nice with me or not. So but anyway, I don't have him, so I don't have to worry about it. But yes, he's done for the season. That is absolutely positively true.
By the way, Aaron Glenn is speaking right now as we're speaking at the same time.
Okay.
And the expectation was that the Jets would be making a quarterback change today, according to sources from ESPN. AG says, I am not going to announce my quarterback today. I don't want to give a competitive advantage to the Cincinnati Bengals. So by all accounts, they're going to former Giants legend Tyrod Taylor is where they will be going. But that was not announced today as expected by AG. Instead, playing coy, which, I'm sure the Bengals are staying up at night that they don't know who the starting quarterback is
defend here?
For the 0-7 Jets. I'm sure they're staying up late at night for that. So
I would say more accurately, Tyrod Taylor, a legendary Bills player. He was with the Giants.
Sure.
He had a cup of coffee with the Giants, barely played.
There you go.
But with the Bills, he was a viable guy for them for a while before they
he had like a 3-year run and took them back to the playoffs after that 17-year playoff drought. So Tyrod, I imagine, is held in high regard for Buffalo Bills.
And he was going to start for? Was it Cleveland? Who was it with the heart? the heart. They gave him
you're talking about the
shot.
lungs. Yeah.
The
So
lung shot.
So
Oh
Tyrod Taylor was the
God.
starting quarterback for the LA Chargers.
Okay, so he's going to start. He's earned the starting job. He's going to go out there and start the season for the Chargers. Go ahead, tell the story. It's unbelievable.
And before a game, he's getting an injection for something, and the doctor accidentally pushed it too far and punctured his lung. And all of a sudden, like 20 minutes before the game starts, because this just happened. He was running onto the field. It's after the inactives and everything. Mm-hmm. And they slapped Justin Herbert on the back, say, "You're making your first start in 20 minutes. Go out there." He's like, "What?" And they played the Chiefs, and Justin Herbert, the whatever, the legend lives on, right? He has this crazy game and goes bonkers, and he's a franchise quarterback forever. But Tyrod Taylor has all these bizarre injury situations where a doctor punctures his lung. He's had several of his ribs broken against the Jets. I mean, concussions, legs, knees, ankle. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, the Jets, whoever the backup quarterback is for the Jets, they better be ready, because Tyrod has not stayed healthy for 7 years.
He's been very, very frail, but man, that was a bad one though. I mean, he had earned that starting job and was going to get a chance to be a legit starting quarterback, potentially for a season if he played well.
Sure, yeah.
And a doctor accidentally does this to him, and that's it. He gets lost for weeks, then loses the job while he's
out. By nature, right? Because he wasn't getting it back once Herbert was playing as well as he was.
That was
Tyrod.
Very, very, very rough. All right. Anything else in the comments we want to get to before we get out of here, Boy Green? We'll end with that.
Let's see. Yes, bad shot. I am putting on the pounds, chugging the rest of this Mountain Dew. So I am a low center to gravity. That's because I'm fat and the gravity weighs down. So that is definitely happening there. Appreciate you pointing that out. And people have seemingly, since Boy Green Daily this morning, enjoyed the camo gear to support the troops. So yes, I'm blending in with the environment. So I appreciate you guys pointing that out. I've never hunted, actually, so I can't provide any news or nuggets on that.
You know what you should do when you wear the camo is get one of those, one of those camo blankets that cover stuff on the ground sometimes when they're in a war zone, and just throw it right over your backdrop there, your bookcase.
Oh, go,
right?
Desert Storm.
The backdrop, and then you camo in.
Right.
It would be like a really good look on camera here. It would be like, where is Boy Green? I can kind of see him. Oh, yeah, there's his beard. I see the beard is sticking through. But otherwise, the rest of you might just camo right in there. Might be interesting.
That's a good idea, especially because we do these Survivor live shows tonight. I need to Survivor up my background. That could be another way to do it tonight, where we're going to have a special guest, Jake O'Kane, who's from season 45. He'll be joining us tonight. So, yeah, I'll have to see if Amazon can get that kind of a quick delivery for camouflage.
Yeah. Now I'm always, as you know, Boy Green, I'm always working on the things here in my background in my home studio. This home studio, it's 3 months old. It wasn't meant to be a home studio, and now I'm building it. By the way, yesterday I was up at one of my colleges, and they were throwing away, Boy Green, just tossing in the garbage. The soundproofing tile, those little,
of course,
stuff,
yes,
egg crate, sound
100%.
Type stuff. I think this stuff wasn't the soundproofing tiles that you get to put on a wall, say in a radio station, like we've seen for years and years. Maybe some people have seen them. They're like foam looking. All right. But these were they had gotten, obviously, because this is a brand new school, this is a brand new building, they're still getting equipment in, and equipment is often packed in, these egg crate foam things, just like we see on the walls in radio.
Yeah.
So there was a whole bunch of them in the trash. So I was like, I was like dumpster diving last night.
Nice.
I found these because I'm trying to get some soundproofing in this room to stop my voice from bouncing around. I'm just in an ordinary room, so I'm trying to turn it into a studio. And so I grabbed a bunch of these things. I'm going to start to build my soundproofing in this room. You see behind me, you pointed this out the other day. I'll just see if I can move my microphone out of there. Thanks. Yeah. You see, I've added a play like a champion today.
Notre Dame
sign back there. All right. Yeah. The legendary sign that the Notre Dame players tap. So that I'm going with the LaDainian Tomlinson today.
Powder blue, beautiful.
Got the usual montage here of the Jets and the Giants and the Bills and the
stacked up.
Right, we're going to start talking Knicks soon. Knicks open their season, by the way, tonight. Boy,
yeah, there you go. Nice.
New York Knickerbockers. So we're getting ready for that. And also within a couple of days, BG, I mentioned this to you, but people will suddenly see it behind me in a couple of days. I got notice this morning. It was shipped to me. So I had a custom made door cover All right, because you see that
Yeah.
ridiculous door behind me.
Yeah, sure.
Going out to one of the other bedrooms, and so I was like, boy, what could I do about that door behind me? Because the way my room is situated and where my desk is, where I have everything, I don't think I can really change that configuration in this room. So the door remains behind me, but why see a door when I can give you something more interesting? So I got a custom-made Manchild Show with Boy Green digital logoed door cover. All right. And it is on the way. It has been made, and they told me that it was shipped. So I thought it would take a couple of weeks for them to make it and to put the art on it, because I had to send them the art of our logos.
Yeah.
But I sent them our 2 logos, and it is done. I can't wait to get it, and you'll see it behind me probably within a couple of days. So by next week, probably all of a sudden, there's going to be another new decoration, dare I say, behind me, kind of fill out the space. So
I can't wait
like I said, it's going to be a work in progress, and that's kind of a cool thing of following a show like right out of the gate. You know, we're young in terms of our internet world here, and it's just kind of cool to see how things change and how things develop. Right, Anthony Prohaska, who we'll have on again on Thursday, he has that little Christmas tree, and there's a whole story behind the Christmas tree. So you're going to see that Christmas tree that Anthony has,
and he's rebuilding. Right, he moved.
He's rebuilding his studio. He just moved, so he's gonna. We'll see what he does with his decor behind him
Thursday,
for his hits with us. So we'll see. Has he gotten any of the pictures up yet, or any of the things that he's going to put behind him? You know, for his little in-home studio, because he's as you said, he just moved to a new place, so he's gonna be redecorating for sure.
By the way, Lerch, did you appreciate this last night? It's back.
I did. Amazing game between Oklahoma City.
Double overtime.
Double OT in Houston. Thank you. Kevin Durant looked good early in that game, but of course it was SGA, the MVP, coming through. So he was incredible and ended up closing that thing out, I think, with a free throw.
He did, at the end. Hey, by the way, did you catch the Michael Jordan interview?
Knicks Cavs, by the way. Go ahead.
Oh, Knicks Cavs. No, and we got Celtics 76ers, I believe, is the other one.
Okay.
Did you catch the Michael Jordan interview? He's been hired as like an NBC correspondent / what's the word they used? Like contributor. You know, so
he's going to be an NBA contributor this year?
Yeah, but like, what does that really mean? He's not on the desk every night. So like, what is it? And no, Jordan invited Mike Tirico, who's also part of the NBC family, into his house to just talk basketball. And it was an interesting interview. I haven't heard from Jordan in a minute. And he just, in the middle of their interview, because I stopped everything I was doing, I was like, oh, let's hear what Jordan has to say. Mm-hmm. And he said, if I could take a magic pill right now and get all my abilities back to play, I'd want to play right now. He says, I think about it every day. I'm just a competitor. I love it. The juice is flowing. And just hearing how passionate he is. And again, he's obviously built differently. That was just really cool to hear. So a lot of people, that was going viral on social media last night.
He'd be amazing in today's game. I would love to see what he would do in today's game. You know? Yeah. He's a player that I could see morphing and changing into whatever he needed to morph and change himself into to be great. He is. He's a fierce competitor, and just could do things physically that I've never seen other players be able to do, and to do it as long as he did it, and how he evolved as a player. His journey was incredible. I'm so blessed to have lived through the Michael Jordan era as a fan. And I was a season ticket holder for the Knicks during most of his era, most of his time. I got to see him play in person dozens of times. I mean, I would never, when the Bulls were playing the Knicks and people would come to me, you know, because we had 2 season tickets, right? Yep. And other people were rotating into that second seat. And sometimes I would let people take my seat for certain games. But when the Knicks played the Bulls, regular season play, no chance. If that guy was playing, I was there. Yeah. I was sitting in that seat. Whether the Knicks were going to win or lose, I wanted to see that guy play. I wanted him to lose, never did,
of course,
right? But I wanted to see that guy play. He was a spectacle. I'm so blessed to have seen him play as many times as I have. I got to interview him once in the locker room in Chicago. So cool. I had a friend who was in Chicago radio. He says to me, I told you the story a million times. I've probably told the story on the radio. I'll tell it real quick. There's this line that's coming out of the Bulls locker room, go way down the hall. All right. And this is right after the game. The game has ended. We come from the press box down. Okay. Yeah. And my buddy, who's going to interview a bunch of players for WMAQ radio, we work for in Chicago, he says, hey, just stand on the back of this line. I'll be back in a little bit, you know. So I was helping. I was like his assistant producer or whatever. I was essentially working the game. We were in the press box. He got me a press credential. I was working with him, helping him out. So he says, get on this line. I'll be back in a little bit. And I was like, Okay. So he just leaves me, and people, he heads off, and I'm like standing on the line, and now there's people getting up behind me, and the line is really long, and there's all these media people. And so I tapped the one guy in front of me, and I was like, if you don't mind me asking, what's this line for?
Yeah.
Like, didn't he just go in to go get some of the players? He said, yeah, this is the Jordan line. I was like, the Jordan line? He's like, yeah, this is the line you wait on to talk to Michael. And I was like, he talks to everybody on this line, and he's like, yep, he'll stay here until every person in the line has asked their questions of him. So you go in and you get Michael, and then you next person. I was like, you kidding me? And I was like, does he do this every night, every home game? You want to know why Michael Jordan was loved by the media, why maybe he was a flawed human being who was probably doing some things during basketball that probably maybe he shouldn't have. There's a lot of rumors out there about that he was gambling.
Yeah.
Earlier than after he retired. Well, I don't know if any of it's true or not.
Sure, right.
Michael's escapades off the court with the ladies, things of that nature. Whether you buy any of it's true or not, the fact of the matter is the media wasn't going to write any of those stories because of that. Because
took care of him.
Get on a line every game, and he'll answer my questions. He'll wait for me and answer my questions. And so I waited on that line, knowing what was coming, and I'm getting closer and closer, and I'm starting to quake in my, where's my buddy? Where's my buddy? Where's my buddy?
Yeah.
And eventually he did show up, but I went in with him, and the two of us got to basically one-on-one ask Michael Jordan a couple of questions and then move along. I was like, this is amazing. I was like, he does this every game. This is incredible. So very, very cool. Michael Jordan was really good to the media, and I think that was that didn't hurt. That didn't hurt.
I imagine not.
Because we're human beings, and we, when people treat us well, typically we're going to treat other people well. Like, okay, I could write this lousy story, or, I kind of like this guy, and I don't want to get on his bad side. He's a good guy, and he always gives me what I want when I need it. Is it really worth it? And I think some things got written about Michael that might not have been so flattering because Michael was really good to people. That's smart. That's just smart PR. You want to go PR 101? That guy knows PR 101, Boy Green, big time.
Very clearly.
Okay, final thoughts if you have any, Boy Green, and we'll definitely set up the rest of the week for people as well. But let's final thoughts first.
Yeah, and I want to throw this up again. We're going to promote it every day. We'll continue to promote it. We're 150 plus something subscribers away from reaching 500. I saw earlier, there was a comment earlier we never got to from Badshaw. Did I hear that you guys will be taking calls in after 500 subscribers?
Yeah, Paul and I have talked about this. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and it's all combined together. Yes, we will. We have never taken phone calls on this show, the Manchild Show Boy Green Digital. That's something we would love to do. But I think an appropriate place is when we start really sort of putting the roots in of our community, and you guys will be able to learn more about that when we get closer to that. And hopefully it could come sooner rather than later, of course. Like I said, we're about 150 subscribers away. But if you guys are watching, and we're streaming live in a lot of different places, my YouTube channel, my Twitter account, and then here, obviously, on the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital, that right there, that YouTube link on your screen right there, youtube.com/MC Show Digital. We're trying to grow the brand, and we've had a brand for a very long time, but now we're transitioning it from terrestrial radio to the digital world. And I hope people all jump on for all the fun content, the free giveaways we're doing. And once we reach 500 subscribers, we will take phone calls. Me and Lerch will talk about what that's going to look like, and
we'll
how
create
we
segments for phone calls, and we'll do video calls. That'll be fun. I'd love to see people and interact with people that way. So we're very personable guys. But like Paul was saying, I think we want to be viable in the community, and right now we're just like this little tiny ant, and we'd like to be at least a buzzing bee. Maybe eventually we'll be a rat, and then we'll turn into like a dog, and then we'll be a lion, but right now we're just this little flea. So what we'd like to do is build our community a little bit, get people interested in what we're doing week in and week out, joining us for live shows like this. Thank you to all 200 plus that are sitting in the room with us right now. We commend you and appreciate you very, very much. But as we build this community through our subscribers, that gives us an indication. I know you can watch without subscribing, and you're fine to do that, but we want you to subscribe because we want you to know all of the different things that we're up to. We're doing a live Survivor show tonight. I don't know if you're a Survivor fan. People don't know that we do that, but Boy Green and I for years have been, around Survivor. He's applied for Survivor many, many times. We've been doing interviews about Survivor for going back almost 10 years on our radio show. And so we decided this year we're going to do a Survivor post-game show. We do it typically with Brett LaBelle, who joins us. He's the cop from Boston who was on the Gen X versus Millennial season. Tonight, though, Brett is traveling, and when Brett travels, he gets us somebody else. And here's who's coming tonight. tonight. Jake O'Kane is joining us tonight from Survivor 45. I actually was just watching one of the episodes this morning, Boy Green, trying to remind myself of some of Jake's escapades. That's the season where Valadares won the $1 million, but Jake was all the way to the
finalist.
So he was a finalist. So he was ostracized in a lot of that Survivor, and we'll talk to him about that tonight. But he's going to be breaking down tonight's episode after it happens. We do our Survivor live show every Wednesday right after the show. We usually hit the air around 9:40, 9:45. So you want to, after you're done with the show, get on the web. Or maybe to watch the show on an app or on the web, and you can just jump on over to our YouTube channel. We put it out in those other portals, as Boy Green was mentioning as well, and you can jump in, live comment, live chat with Jake. We like to bring the comments in, so if you have thoughts about the episode, if you're a Survivor watcher, you do that. So Jake O'Kane, another Boston guy. Tonight, right? Is Jake a lawyer these days?
He is an attorney, I believe. I don't know if there's any difference between lawyers and attorneys,
but
the
same thing. A lawyer.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. I don't know if lawyers have any sort of rub on the different verbiage utilized, but yes, he is an attorney, and he's a very smart guy and funny, and so I can't wait to continue to grow the Survivor community. So that's going to be a lot of fun tonight at 9:45. So yes, my shout out to the 200 people. I mean, right now we could get to 500 subscribers. There's 200 people here.
Good point.
Maybe it's a different 200 than the 300 plus that we have subscribed to the channel. So folks, if you're watching right now or even after the fact, you could go right there to that and make sure you jump in. And yes, as Sharon says, tell everyone that they can get a participation trophy. They hit the like button. That's a free way to contribute. That also helps the algorithm and gets the show in front of others. So yeah, Sharon, I appreciate that. So there you go. That is the link. So if you are watching on my YouTube or my Twitter account, hop on over right now and go to this link. If you're on your phone, you just open up a new tab. Go to the YouTube app. It's very easy. If you're on the computer, open up a new tab. It's even simpler. And go to youtube.com/MC Show Digital. If you subscribe to the channel, you have a chance to win a lot of free stuff on top of all the great content we do. So it's a great deal.
Hep must be getting in late today because he said about Aaron Glenn. He didn't announce Tyrod as a starter. He's waiting till Sunday. Paul already had let us know that he's multitasking. You know, he's watching Aaron Glenn and participating in the show at the same time. Why wouldn't he? But he had just watched the Glenn's presser, or some might call it the depressor.
Well, yeah, which it certainly feels that way. So yeah, so it seems like, even though Tyrod is apparently battling a knee injury too, so great. We'll keep an eye out for that too. But all indications are Tyrod will be the starter for the Jets. That's fine. They want to do gamesmanship. I don't think the Bengals are staying up late at night not knowing who the starter is going to be. I think they can read the room. But either way, it doesn't matter. Like we'll see what happens on Sunday. But it does appear that the keys are being tossed over to Tyrod moving forward.
Listen, at this point, the Jets' offensive goals have to be meager, and the meager at this point is we need somebody under center that can help us move the ball down the field, and that just has not been happening with Justin Fields. So you have to make a change, and you have to try something else. And you know, I don't know if you end up landing back in that square at some point during this season. It's
probably because Tyrod can't stay healthy. Yeah,
we'll see. But you still, you have to try something else at some point. Sometimes you just have to try something different. I don't think that Tyrod is going to be your answer by any means, but it seems pretty clear that Fields is not either. So, you move forward, onward and upward, but you have these guys in the room, and you still got to deal with them, and you still need to roll somebody out there to play quarterback every week. So you do the best you can. This is probably going to be a week-to-week decision for Aaron Glenn as he just tries to seek, number one, a win, and then hopefully maybe try to pile up a couple of wins and get this team at least believing in itself that they can play winning football and, hopefully take that momentum into the offseason and then into next year. That's really where it's at right now.
For sure. Lurch, let's plug it one more time. We got over 200 people in the room. Let's go full screen here on what? So for people subscribing, which again, it's free to subscribe to the channel. Right? Here is our prize. When we reach 500 subscribers, you just had to be one of the first 500.
Yeah. So this is, a driver. It was donated by our friends at Play It Again Sports. They're one of our primary sponsors here on the channel. You'll hear about them from time to time during our videos. It's a Hybor XL Cleveland driver, really nice brand. And it is fully in the plastic, fully wrapped, fantastic, brand new, never been hit. It's a $400 value, and they just donated to us. And they said, you can give it away any way you want. And we decided, all right, let's give it away for a little, kind of a benchmark for our subscribers. And so we will ship this to you. once we pick a winner, once we get to 500. So we're literally going to put all 500 names in a little blender, pick a number, bing. Okay, that's the number. We'll call you out on the air, and then we'll track you down, obviously, probably through the world of DM. That's why you want to be a subscriber. And then you tell us where you are, and we'll get it to you. And you'll have yourself a brand new golf club. You could use that yourself. You could give it to your mom or your dad or your aunt or your uncle or your brother or your sister for Christmas. That might be good. Hopefully we'll get to 500 before Christmas. We're kind of growing slowly but surely. I appreciate everybody that's jumped in. And if you want to do the slow burn, I'm okay with that too. Like I said, we're just little neophytes today, but we're hoping to grow into something, at least, from a, I was thinking of a dinosaur analogy, like if you go from like
my daughter loves dinosaurs.
From like a little dinosaur. I can't think of a little one right now. Then you turn into like a velociraptor, and then you turn into like a brontosaurus, and then you turn into like a T-Rex, right? So we're not T-Rex yet, but we'd love to be T-Rex down the road. So we'll see if we can slowly but surely work our way there. Let's tell people, Boy Green, quickly before we get out of here, content for this week. Yes. I know we're talking with Jake Asman later today, so some Jets content dropping later today. Probably some reaction, dare I say, to the Aaron Glenn press conference coming with Jake Asman today. Go ahead.
Yes, so Jake Asman, of course, of the Jake Asman Show, ESPN New York. He's all over the place. So we do weekly conversations talking all things New York Jets. So we'll react to that Aaron Glenn presser. You guys can find that on our channel. It'll be a collaborator, so you can find it on my channel and the MC Show digital channel. But it's a great way for you guys to sort of be introduced to some of this content for all the diehard New York Jet fans that are in our audience. Looking forward to that. We also have some Syracuse action. We're going to be speaking with the play-by-play voice of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, or a top 10 team in college football. Local story here that we feed on a week-to-week basis. That's a Syracuse football team as they hit the road against Georgia Tech. So Andy Demetra will be joining us, and that Survivor content. So we got 3 more shows coming for you today, let alone. Then we'll have Anthony Prohaska, our Buffalo Bills guru. He'll be joining us tomorrow to talk all things Bills. They are coming off the bye week. They'll be playing the Carolina Panthers. Friday, we have our NFL content, NFL picks against the spread. So every week we pick the games against the spread. You guys can root for whoever you want to root for. Maybe you're a Team Manchild or Team Boy Green, or maybe one of our experts. And you guys can also make all your picks against the spread. We also do fantasy football content. Joe Bartle, our fantasy football expert for MotorWire.com, joins us live every Friday at 10:30. So a ton of content every day here on the channel, and you guys can tune in both to live and pre-recorded content alike.
Yeah, I was unfortunately, look, 7-7 isn't bad. I was 7-7 myself in the picks. I always keep track of my picks, and my goal was to be 9-5 out of the 14 games. That was my goal. I did not reach my goal. That's disappointing, but at least I didn't lose any more traction to 500, because all of us, I believe, are still under 500 unless somebody had a miraculous week. I'll find out on Friday, but I do keep track of my picks. So I don't know. I feel like at least I'm treading water now. I was sinking before. Now I'm at least treading water. I want to get my above the water. So we'll see if we can get that done in the next couple of weeks. I think I'm starting to learn some things. I'm going to go back to the basics. This was my pledge, Boy Green, to you earlier this week when I knew that I was 7-7. I was like, all right, I'm going back to the fundamentals of what made me a good picker, because I've gone against that a lot this year and it is not working. So I'm going to go back to the fundamentals and start getting into the fundamental reasons why I think over all these years I've always done pretty well against the spread and always finished over 500, because I had, dare I say, my own little system, and I've gotten away from that system. Perhaps my arrogance in winning too much has put me in a place where I'm just not doing the things that I should be doing. I'm not sticking to the fundamentals. So I'm going back to field and grounders, Boy Green. All right. That's what I'm doing. Fundamentals, baby. Fundamentals. All right. Thanks again to everybody for watching today. Jake Asman coming up a little bit later today. We just did Ed Valentine yesterday. You certainly want to tune in. We recapped, if you want to. I warn you, if you're a Giants fan, maybe if you're not, you'll enjoy it. We recapped that Denver game and how it all went wrong, and we kind of dissected it and gave our opinions on certain pivotal moments. That was a really interesting part of our conversation with Ed Valentine, so check that out. And we will be live again with you, as we said, on Friday morning with our good buddy Joe Bartle. We'll see how he's feeling about his fantasy team coming off another win. Joe starting to turn things around a little bit in our Champs League in fantasy. Perhaps this week he'll finally have that golden smile that he sometimes has had on, but doesn't seem to have had this year. All right, we'll see if he does that on Friday. All right, for Boy Green, for all of you in the room right now, we will see you again live on Friday. Enjoy the rest of the content. Take care.
And one more. We'll see you later tonight for Survivor, of course.
Yes, of course. Yes.
9:45 tonight. So that'll be our next live content. Right. We'll see you guys this evening.
Okay. We'll see you, folks. Take care.